we explore Somali's unique genetic heritage shaped by trade, environment, and faith. From maritime links to extreme climates, discover how the people have adapted, offering a deep dive into the resilience encoded within their DNA. Somalia's proximity to the ports of Yemen and its link to inland trade routes made it a prized stopover for traders moving between the Mediterranean and the Indian subcontinent. Archaeological finds support this genetic evidence. Ceramic shards, glass beads, and metal tools of Indian and Persian origin have been found in coastal Djiboutian sites. These objects weren't likely to have traveled alone. With them came sailors, servants, artisans, and religious teachers. Some returned home, others stayed, married, and blended into the local gene pool. The genetic signatures left by these maritime visitors are particularly evident in autosomal DNA. Segments of genomes in coastal Somalis show affinities with populations from Gujarat, Oman, and southern Iran. These markers are not dominant, but they represent a consistent background layer that reappears across multiple individuals, especially those from historically mercantile families. Mitochondrial DNA analysis reveals that some of the maternal lineages common in these communities may have originated in South Asia. This suggests that foreign women, perhaps wives of traders or even enslaved individuals, also played a role in shaping the population. This is important as it challenges the common assumption that foreign genetic influence in Africa was overwhelmingly male. In Somalia, at least on the coast, women from across the seas also left lasting legacies. Language and culture offer supporting evidence. Local dialects include loanwords from Persian, Arabic, and Gujarati, especially in areas related to trade, seafaring, and cooking. Some family names still hint at origins far from the Horn. Oral traditions in coastal clans recount ancestors who came from Muscat, Karachi, or even Bengal, arriving as merchants or refugees and settling into the fabric of the port cities. One overlooked aspect of maritime genetic exchange is the role of religious networks. The spread of Islam through the Indian Ocean wasn't just spiritual, it was also demographic. Sufi missionaries, scholars, and pilgrims from as far as western India and the Hadramaut region often traveled through Djibouti en route to Mecca or back. Many stayed behind, starting religious schools or families whose descendants still trace their lineage to foreign shores. These religious migrations introduced genetic diversity along with cultural practices. Some Y chromosome markers associated with Islamic priestly lineages, such as certain branches of haplogroup J, appear in moderate frequencies among coastal Somalis. These lineages often come with oral histories of spiritual ancestry, linking the biological to the sacred. The port's influence also affected health and physiology. Geneticists studying coastal populations have noted the presence of gene variants common in southern India and Arabia that relate to metabolic traits, skin tone variation, and even disease resistance. For example, certain alleles associated with thalassemia, a condition common in Mediterranean and South Asian populations, appear in trace frequencies in Somalia's port towns. Such findings underscore that Djibouti's position as a port was never neutral. It didn't merely receive ships, it received people, genes, and identities. The maritime networks acted as rivers of life, constantly refreshing the human tapestry of the region. And while modern shipping containers now dominate the ports, the genetic currents continue flowing through families that carry traces of Oman, India, Persia, and beyond. Today, Djibouti's port remains vital, not just economically, but historically. Every vessel that docks is part of a continuum stretching back to dhows and caravels. Every family with stories of foreign ancestors is a living archive of the city's global entanglements, and every DNA strand that points across the water is a reminder that this place has always been more than a border. It has been a bridge. In studying the maritime genetic legacy of Somali, Djibouti, we learned that identity is not fixed to land alone. It drifts, sails, and anchors in new harbors. The genes of Somali's coastal people are not mere relics. They are maps of past voyages, testimonials of ancient tides that still ripple beneath modern skin. Somalia's landscape is a testament to extremes. Towering volcanic ridges, blistering salt flats, and searing desert winds dominate a region where survival demands adaptation, not luxury. For millennia, the people of Djibouti have lived in this punishing environment, not simply enduring it, but evolving alongside it. Their DNA tells a remarkable story of resilience, sculpted by one of the harshest climates on Earth. Environmental pressures have long acted as selective forces on human biology. In Djibouti, where annual rainfall is minimal and temperatures often exceed 40 degrees Celsius, natural selection has favored traits that enhance heat tolerance, hydration efficiency, and metabolic conservation. These adaptations are not anecdotal. They are genetically encoded and observable in the genomes of modern Somalis. One of the most studied adaptations is related to thermoregulation. Genes associated with sweat gland density and water retention, such as variants of the AQP2 gene, appear at elevated frequencies in individuals from arid regions like Djibouti. These genetic changes help the body retain moisture while minimizing water loss through sweating, a critical trait in environments where water sources are sparse and unpredictable. Another adaptation lies in sodium balance. The human body requires precise regulation of salt and fluid, especially in hot climates where dehydration is a constant threat. Geneticists have identified variants of the SLC4A5 and NOC genes in Somali populations that help manage salt reabsorption in the kidneys. These genes reduce the amount of sodium lost in urine, thereby conserving essential electrolytes needed for cellular function and blood pressure stability. This isn't just theory. It plays out in daily life. Many Somalis, particularly those from nomadic or pastoral backgrounds, exhibit physiological traits such as low resting heart rates, efficient perspiration control, and tolerance to prolonged physical exertion under the sun. These aren't cultural traits. They are the outcomes of generations of selection in favor of metabolic efficiency and environmental awareness. Genetic evidence also points to adaptations for food scarcity. In regions where agriculture is limited and diets lean heavily on milk, meat, and occasional grains, the body must maximize nutrient extraction. Gene variants that enhance fat storage, slow metabolism, and improve glucose regulation are more common among Somali populations than in populations from more temperate regions. These genetic features likely evolved as responses to food insecurity and fasting cycles common in arid environments. One powerful example is the high prevalence of lactase persistence among nomadic Somalis. While most African populations lose the ability to digest lactose after childhood, many Cushitic-speaking groups retain this ability into adulthood. This trait is linked to a genetic mutation in the MCM6 gene that enables continued production of the enzyme lactase. In an environment where milk from camels and goats often serves as the primary source of hydration and calories, this adaptation has been crucial. Another adaptation may involve the skin. The sun is relentless, and protection from UV radiation is essential. While dark skin provides broad protection, scientists have noted subtle variations in pigmentation genes, such as SLC24A5 and OCA2, that may fine-tune melanin production for optimal UV defense and vitamin D synthesis balance. These changes reflect a balancing act between environmental protection and nutritional needs. Interestingly, recent studies suggest that genes related to heat shock proteins, HSPs, may also be more active or prevalent in Somali genomes. Their elevated presence may explain how certain Somali populations maintain high levels of activity and cognitive function despite soaring heat. Disease resistance has also played a role in shaping the Somali genomes. Living in semi-arid and coastal zones exposes populations to both tropical diseases like malaria and bacterial infections common in saline environments. Variants in genes such as dark EBG6PD have been studied for their protective effects. The duphenol allele, for instance, confers resistance to certain forms of malaria, while G6PD deficiency can protect against malaria, but also predispose individuals to hemolytic anemia, another evolutionary trade-off. These adaptations are often overlooked in discussions of human evolution, which tend to focus on dramatic migrations or cultural revolutions. But the Somali genomes shows how subtle, cumulative changes can produce a population finely tuned to its land. These changes didn't happen overnight. They represent thousands of years of incremental advantage passed through generations of survivors. Moreover, these traits are not static. As climate change intensifies and alters local weather patterns, the very adaptations that once ensured survival may face new challenges. Increased humidity, coastal flooding, or disease migration could render certain genetic traits less beneficial or even harmful. This raises urgent questions about how ancient adaptations will fare in a rapidly changing world. Researchers in Djibouti are increasingly aware of the value of studying local genomes, not just for historical insight, but for future planning. Public health initiatives, nutritional programs, and medical treatments tailored to the genetic profile of Djibouti and populations can vastly improve outcomes. For instance, understanding salt retention tendencies may influence how hypertension is treated or how water needs are calculated in development planning. In the broader context of human evolution, Somali and Djibouti offer a case study in how genes respond to place. It shows that adaptation isn't always about moving away from difficulty. It's about becoming one with it. The people of the Horn of Africa didn't just survive the heat, thirst, and hunger. They evolved to master it. Their DNA is a living tribute to the silent genius of natural selection, working over centuries to craft resilience from adversity. In these genes of survival, we find a blueprint, not just of where humanity has been, but how it endures. Somali's DNA tells us that to understand the story of a people, we must first understand the land that shaped them. When Islam spread across the Horn of Africa in the 7th century CE, it did more than bring a new faith.